Alliance, where we help you to wrestle better so that together we keep real wrestling alive. Thank you very much for watching or listening. Let's go through the announcements first. So, yeah, we still got the classes going at UCLA. So, if you're a student or if you have access to the gym, totally welcome to train. Even though we're already in the middle of the quarter, it's totally fine. Also, if you're in the Los Angeles area, of course, we're at Fight Science MMA. So that's in Mid City. That's basically in the middle of the city. So it shouldn't be too hard to find if you just look up Fight Science MMA. Also, feel free to support us through our YouTube channel. We have a membership there. We have a bunch of different videos. Also, I thought maybe it'd be a good idea because um, I've been using I've been making like today I'm gonna post and I'm gonna during this podcast I'm gonna play like a thing that I made. So how I've been doing these deep dive things where I try to put a lot of information together and then I make like a mini podcast out of it. So I decided to put those up as well for members. So if you want to go through those and really get like a synthesis of a lot of information in a very digestible way. Those are good, and so that's why I kind of make them. So I have a short one today that we're going to be going through, but this is kind of like the main topic that was brought up to me last week by one of my students. So that reporter who's been covering MMA, Luke Thomas, he did a video talking about like how nowadays jujitsu really is or showing that elite grapplers aren't doing very well in MMA, especially people who are pure jujitsu practitioners. So I think maybe we can start off by going over uh, like what he has to say, but I think there's a little bit more to it, so a little more historical context. So the deep dive that I did, it's only about 4 minutes long. I had our AI friends um, kind of put together a lot of information about the historical aspect of jujitsu and why it is the way it is, but I didn't have them add about like how UFC started and how ultimately it was a marketing scheme by the Gracie family. So I think we can talk about that after. So, like first things first, Luke Thomas talked about like, oh, is jujitsu like done in MMA? But I want to talk basically. Maybe I just watch the video because you're gonna see how it's like the rules kind of made it the way it is, and so it's still basically heavily influenced by the rules, and but there's kind of reasons why it is the way it is. So let's go and go through this deep dive real quick. It's only about 4 minutes, and I put the subtitles on it and everything, so you can read along or you can just listen. Here we go.
So if you watch modern MMA, you've probably noticed this pretty glaring trend lately. I mean, elite Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys like Marcus Almeida or, Puchecha, they are suddenly really struggling to get fights to the ground.
Yeah, it's gotten so noticeable that MMA analyst Luke Thomas just put out a video asking this wild question, right? He basically asked, "Is BJJ fake now?"
Right, which, I mean, that sounds totally like clickbait.
Oh, absolutely it does. But, he's pointing to a very real tactical identity crisis happening in the octagon. And to figure out why this legendary martial art is suddenly hitting a wall, we have to look at Thomas's modern breakdown and cross-reference it with some really incredible historical interviews from BJJ historian Robert Drysdale.
And the crazy thing we found in this deep dive is that BJJ was, well, it was always intended for real combat, exactly like Thomas describes.
Exactly. Just, a completely different era of it. We're talking
Yeah.
early Vale Tudo in Brazil, right? You didn't have these quick 5-minute rounds you see today.
Right, they were what, like 30-minute survival tests?
Yeah, massive 30-minute rounds. And crucially, no gloves.
Oh, wow.
Right. In bare knuckle veil tudo, if you're on top of someone, you can't just rain down heavy, closed fist punches to their skull. I mean, you'll completely shatter your hand on the floor.
Because there's no padding.
Exactly, no padding at all. So you had to rely on open hand strikes, which drastically lowered the immediate damage output.
Which I guess gives the grapplers time to survive underneath, right? Like,
Mm.
they can slowly work their sweeps and eventually find a submission without just getting knocked out instantly.
Yes, it was incredibly friendly for grapplers, but modern MMA essentially breaks that original design. Once you strap on padded gloves, a fighter can just throw absolute bombs on the ground.
Without worrying about breaking their hands at all.
Right. And you combine that with a strict 5-minute time limit, and the environment just turns, well, totally hostile for methodical grappling.
So it's kind of like taking an elite marathon runner and forcing them to compete in a 100-meter dash. I mean, 5 minutes just isn't enough time to safely clinch, take down, and submit an explosive athlete.
That is a perfect analogy. And that time constraint is exactly why we're seeing BJJ practitioners getting dominated by fighters with heavy wrestling bases.
Like guys doing amateur wrestling, catch wrestling, or sambo.
Yeah, all of those. Because those styles are hyper-adapted for explosive takedowns and immediate top control. They dictate exactly where the fight takes place.
But wait, hold on. This is the part I struggle with. Why are modern BJJ fighters so completely outmatched in the wrestling department today? Because didn't early BJJ, like descending from pre-war judo, wasn't it a 50-50 split between stand-up throws and groundwork?
Yeah, they used to be fantastic at takedowns.
So what happened?
Well, Robert Drysdale's research points to this massive cultural pivot that happened in 1975. A new rule set was codified for BJJ tournaments in Brazil, and it heavily incentivized specific ground positions.
How so?
They started awarding 4 points for securing the mount and 4 points for taking the back.
Wait, really? So a point system change in the 70s just completely erased their stand-up game. I mean, wouldn't athletes realize they still need to actually get the opponent to the mat to score those ground points?
You'd think so, right? But human nature takes over when there's a medal on the line. Competitors reverse engineered the fastest way to win under those specific rules.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, if the ultimate reward is back control, you stop spending half your practice taking hard judo falls. Instead, you spend like 90% of your time mastering guard pulls, sweeps, and ground transitions.
Wow. So over decades, the art just culturally abandoned its takedown focus.
Exactly, which leaves modern practitioners completely exposed against, say, a Division I wrestler under current UFC rules.
So the takeaway for you listening is that BJJ isn't fake, right? It's incredibly lethal. It was just optimized for long, bare-knuckle marathon matches and a 1975 point system.
Right, not the explosive padded glove reality of modern MMA. It's a stark reminder that martial arts don't evolve in a vacuum. They evolve entirely based on the rules of their environment.
Yeah, which leaves you with this provocative thought to chew on.
Mhm.
If rule sets dictate evolution that heavily, what bizarre, hyper-specialized fighting styles are going to define MMA in another 50 years as athletes completely reverse engineer today's rules?
Yeah, so you can see how like things always evolve, really. So including language and martial art styles and whatnot. And so jujitsu, because of the rules, became what it is today. Where say if you do, especially like a gi competition, people are going to be pulling guard very fast. Even a no gi, and also people will butt scoot towards you. If it's not like ADCC or something, but even in ADCC, people try to find ways to pull guard anyways that still kind of fit into the like what's legal and all that, so they don't get penalized. So like they were saying, it's like people will try to find the best meta, right? So we've been kind of talking about that. For a while now, whether it's say in kickboxing, you are seeing kind of like a big revolution in a way where a lot of these really famous Muay Thai people are just getting destroyed in like not, yeah, I think you can totally say destroyed because a lot of them getting knocked out. A real famous superstar, Tawan Chai, just got his leg broken in a fight in the first round. Like Nongo, who is like such a big Muay Thai star for the longest time, got knocked out by people who are like blending or creating like a new meta for kickboxing. So with regards to grappling, you're seeing, I think like we should probably do like a whole different episode about like the current nogi or grappling meta, right? Because it is kind of changing. Where so even though now in modern nogi, a lot of people are doing what's called like a wrestle up, right? So they're, in my opinion, I think they're blending the wrong aspects of amateur wrestling with their jujitsu. Um, so I think that should be just like a separate. Maybe that'll be the next podcast, right? So the new grappling meta or whatever. But so you're seeing that I think ultimately too much of the meta for the old rule set still lingers in jiu-jitsu. So that's why you see some of the elite grapplers who won ADCC like just aren't able to pull off like the wins that they need in UFC, et cetera, et cetera. So it doesn't mean that they're done or that jiu-jitsu is going to go extinct or anything. No, it's still as popular as ever, if not more popular. Because like what we have, what now, regular UFC jiu-jitsu events, right? So and like in one championship, you're seeing grappling matches and whatnot. So I think if anything, it's getting more popular, so it's not going to be going away, but you're going to see maybe more of these people who have a little bit more of a hybrid, uh, like jujitsu with wrestling style, like become better and evolve uh, more from like the standard, like they had to mention like the 1970s rule set to a more, of course, like amateur wrestling. So, with that being said, right, then that ultimately should benefit the catch wrestler because even though uh, we're talking about like new metas and whatnot, uh, catch wrestling itself, it has its own thing going on, or it has its own way of doing things I'd say it's still not in the meta, right? So it's very few people actually know like kind of like the authentic catch wrestling. So you're seeing a lot of people trying to mix a lot of the amateur stuff with some submissions and then calling it catch wrestling. Um, so that's why I think you're still seeing a lot of like all these wrestle ups and stuff really being a blend of amateur wrestling with some jujitsu. Because a lot of times you don't really want to just be like once you're on the ground, it's like ultimately the way the old time catch wrestlers thought of it. If you're on the ground, don't get back up. Like so, you're not gonna wrestle up. So like the whole idea of a wrestle up is like amateur wrestling. So um, it's not the way like the old timers thought about wrestling. All right. Hello from Los Angeles to Wellington. I think I mentioned, so we have a comment here from Irish New Zealand. So good to hear from you again. Um, so if anyone hasn't seen Wellington, New Zealand, it's the capital of New Zealand. Actually, a lot of people know about the city Auckland, and that's the one that's just the most populated city. But the capital is Wellington, and it is really a cool city, right? It's I think people consider it like the cultural capital more so than Auckland. So I had the best time there. I would totally love to go back. They had so many cool things to like see, and just the even if there was like less city there, like the geography there like is so cool. Like all these like big rolling hills and um, um, oh, actually, so Irish New Zealand. It's raining here. Yeah, it seems like a place that would have a lot of rain. It actually kind of looks like so. Basically, in Northern California, we have a city that's just south of San Francisco called Daly City, and it really reminds me of Wellington. But of course, Wellington I think is much more pretty and very cool because it opens up into the larger uh, sea there between the two islands and stuff. So very cool. All right. So feel free to comment. Let me know your thoughts because um, I think so what I wanted to mention at the beginning was that so what is UFC or what is MMA? So one thing that I probably should have tried to add, but I gotta find it. But there is a book by John Peretti. So he is actually the man who coined the term MMA or mixed martial arts. He was one of the early guys who was trying to create these promotions. He also has one that you can see. I think you can see old videos on YouTube called Battlecade. So he did one that was an actual grappling promotion that a lot of people think that were early MMA matches and stuff, but it was actually grappling because it looks just like modern MMA. But anyway, John Peretti later became part of UFC and then he quit. But basically, he was talking about how um, a lot of the like, especially the UFC one and stuff, was definitely like a marketing tactic or marketing scheme for Gracie Jiu Jitsu. That's why you didn't really see the Gracies compete in Japan until much later when Sakuraba just like was able to control the match for 90 minutes, and then they threw in the Gracies threw in the towel and all that. Um, so it was definitely a more controlled thing to help promote jujitsu, and yeah, a lot of people bought it. So yeah, a lot of people bought it. That's why jujitsu is like on virtually on every street corner. So that's why it got so popular. But then again, even at that time, they had already shifted to that whole with the 1970s rule set. So that was their meta, right? And I think those ways of looking at fighting still are the dominant ways, right? So you're seeing maybe schools like say maybe like 10th Planet or maybe even like Daisy Fresh and them trying to implement some of the wrestling stuff. Because I think even in the thing Luke Thomas mentioned, like Michael Pixley, who's using a lot of traditional wrestling techniques, like a three-quarter Nelson or a bunch of takedowns and all that. He's doing very well in competition. Um, so you're seeing that truly the jujitsu, like the overall mainstream jujitsu, is still kind of stuck in that old ways. That's why you're getting these standout people who get highlighted when they blend the amateur wrestling better into their grappling. So that's ultimately what I see happening. And if like it's really up to the practitioner themselves to kind of look into like improving themselves. But a lot of what's weird is like, let me know your thoughts or whatever. But kind of what I've seen over the years is like, so say like me, if I approach grappling in a more of a catch wrestling way, so I'm going to use a lot of catch wrestling or even like mat wrestling once I get onto the ground. And if I submit someone who does jujitsu, they don't think that they're going to learn that they want to learn jujitsu or that they want to learn catch wrestling. What they think is like, oh, I got to go back and learn more jujitsu. All right, so um, I don't think jujitsu and MMA is going to change anytime soon. I think what happens is like, yeah, you're going to have people who are doing that blend of amateur wrestling and some submission holds, and that's still what you're going to see. And then I think slowly over time it might evolve into something else, because even basically you see that where it's like say like jujitsu is so popular that if someone who does something different beats you, they think, oh, that was just lucky, and if I was better at jujitsu, I could overcome whatever they throw at me or whatever. So um, that's really the strange mindset that I've encountered over the years. Usually, it's some people who maybe who are already doing something different. Like say people who, speaking of New Zealand, right? Like I was invited to University of Auckland's karate club to do catch wrestling, like hybrid takedown seminar where it's like against karate techniques, how you can maybe take someone down and hold them down. Um, so um, you're seeing people, I think people who are doing something that's already not so mainstream, like karate, even though karate is well known or the name is well known, I think people who are into combat sports are probably doing like Muay Thai or boxing with regards to striking. Um, and so then it seems like people who are doing these alternate things or these things that are out of the mainstream, they tend to be more open-minded. So then you can have these people do extremely well. Say like now we're seeing what Mona Kimura in kickboxing just destroying other women because she has that karate background. So she's using the sidekick, but she also did like amateur boxing at a higher level. I think she even did it in college and all that. Um, so her boxing is really strong, but like her karate kick is like so good. It's beating these women who are like champions in other countries and all that in professional kickboxing. So um, it's almost like basically people who aren't just stuck with the mainstream thing, they're thinking outside the box, right? And then they're winning, right? And so it's gotten to the point where people who might be thinking outside of the box are there are enough of them, so maybe it's showing in how like some of these traditionalists are losing at the MMA at least. All right, Irish New Zealand. I've recently purchased some of your content and have signed up to your academy. We are now starting implementing into our system. Really cool, Raul. Oh, cool. Do you have like a do you have a school there in Wellington? Let me know, please. Please write it down because actually, when I was there in Wellington, I was like trying to check out if I could make any class. Yeah, it'd be good to just like if I go back, you just to go straight to your place. That'd be awesome. So yeah, please let me know, and but also let me know how things are working out. Yeah, because it'd be really cool to because like it's one thing also, yeah, like I think people always say it's like one thing to see a technique in video, and then you totally have to like practice it, and then try to make it work. Hang on, my cat. I gotta get my cat. It's like I don't know if he's hungry or whatever. Irish New Zealand. You're more than welcome to come to Wellington for a demonstration anytime. We would love to have you. Yeah, yeah. Especially, yeah, let me know what school in particular. And yeah, it'd be great. Totally great to go check it out. Because, yeah, it's such a cool city. Yeah. So is your school like is it like a mixed school or is it like a jujitsu school? Like, is it like an MMA school or is it like say like in Auckland there was like a karate club? Yeah, let me know. Yeah. So with that being said, so it's like so Irish New Zealand's thinking out of the box, right? So I think it'll show like if any of the students compete in jujitsu. I think even kind of like even in um like even in freestyle wrestling, I think it can be helpful because what are we seeing like, especially like say in now men's and women's freestyle, like the Japanese are 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 just winning, right? So they're winning so many divisions in the Olympics, and they're not exactly doing like kind of like your standard freestyle. They're changing things up and how they enter like leg lace positions and whatnot. So and they're very flexible in the way they're approaching a lot of the matches. So people are who are attacking them, like they can totally instantly go into like a suplex or like in the last Olympics, I think one of the best men's matches was like the Spencer Lee versus Ray Higuchi. That was such a good like back and forth battle. So um and like you can see just like a lot of flexibility in the mind in order to kind of counter because like Spencer Lee is like such a good like American freestyle. Well, he's a very good just American wrestler because he did both like freestyle and folk style, and um, the back and forth in that match. So you guys should totally check it out. And Ray's like quick thinking totally just like won him that match over Spencer. So um, it's so I think they're probably thinking outside the box. Yeah. All right, let's go and show you on the screen here. So actually, so if anyone in New Zealand wants to check out a place that is thinking outside the box, right? Probably evolving the new grappling meta, right? So we have Hut City Jiu-Jitsu Martial Arts Academy. So yeah, actually, I'd totally love to go back. So yeah, so let's see when that can happen. Yeah, because yeah, it's one thing. Like I said, it's one thing learning it from the video, and then like it'd be cool to get like hands-on examples, and so you can make these techniques work. Especially because since like catch wrestling is like kind of not so mainstream, then maybe some of the techniques might seem weird. So, but they work. They work, and they're pretty old. So yeah, of course they work. So um, make sure you check out Hut City Jiu Jitsu. All right, let me. Okay, I think my cat's hungry. Like he's letting me know. All right, so let me know if you have any other questions. But I think ultimately Luke Thomas really made a lot of good points regarding like the modern jiu-jitsu in MMA. And basically, like I think jujitsu like hasn't evolved enough yet, right? So, so I think someone who's doing like say something like a mix of catch wrestling and jujitsu, but ultimately I think people can be doing very well, uh, like just with a strong catch wrestling background, and then just being aware of a lot of common jujitsu positions. You can still do very well against your average jujitsu practitioner if you understand like how a lot of these things work from like a wrestling perspective. Like half guard in wrestling would be considered more of a Turk position in wrestling. So you can be using that leg that they would say is trapped. You can use that to really flatten someone out, pinning them. And that was the other thing that was mentioned by Luke Thomas, is the whole idea of pinning someone. And I remember just a few years ago, he commented online, and he talked about like the importance of winning by pin and whatnot. Then it was almost inevitable that someone would try to troll like, "Oh, pinning is not important because it's not in jujitsu. It's not in the jujitsu rules. You don't get points for it and whatnot." But nowadays, that's all been changing, right? You even have like John Danaher talk about the importance of pinning, and then basically the main reason for this podcast today was Luke Thomas talking about the importance of pinning. Right, how it's absent in a lot of the jujitsu kind of like meta in a way. So and so not to say that it's like you don't have like a side control and whatnot, but again, it's still just a little bit different from like the wrestling pin, or and then on top of that, like a catch wrestling kind of pin. So I guess it's different enough for a reporter to notice. so I think that's why he had to talk about it. All right. Irish New Zealand. We have been training Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, basically MMA, for self-defense, security work, police, etc. We also had a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class running for about 4 years. Okay, cool. Cool. Sounds like a cool gym. That's awesome. So actually, thanks for bringing up so if you can't be in LA, you can totally join us online on our website. And yeah, like how you mentioned, we have one-off courses, so stuff that I have done. And then also I have that Nogi Judo that I did with Juan, who's trained. He takes my classes in catch wrestling, but he's been doing judo for the longest time, and he's one of the instructors at one of the oldest judo schools in Los Angeles. I think there's like two that are like very very old. Um, and so yeah, he's a big time instructor at one of them. So we did a one off course on there as well. Oh, this is a good point. So let's go and show it on the screen here. So Irish New Zealand. We found some of the top competitors over here, especially in Wellington, have moved away from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and are looking for wrestling moves. Oh man, yeah. Tell them to go learn from you. But yeah, yeah. So I think that's kind of what's happening where it's like people are thinking of like say the wrestle ups or other types of amateur wrestling techniques, but you don't have to get back up. I think that's one of the things that from a traditional catch wrestling perspective, you'd want to be thinking about. Like you once you get things to the ground, you don't really want to wrestle back up because then if you're up against a good wrestler or even a good jujitsu practitioner, you're opening up you're creating some space for the person to counter you, right? So you can even think of some kind of like in judo where they roll underneath you and throw you over. Um, those types of kind of sacrifice throws and stuff. Like if you're on the ground and then you get back up, if you're on your feet, then you and if they're really close under you, they can just roll under you and like roll you over them. So there's so many different reasons why you wouldn't necessarily want to wrestle up. So, but right now that's the current no-gi meta. So I can't like it's not like I basically all I can do is just try to talk about these things or show online and have the online courses and whatnot. But so those who want to listen or check it out, I think you'll see the like how effective they are because I'm finding it very effective. Um, Not only in tournaments, but even going to different schools and training and like if I travel, I do like to check out like the local no-gi class wherever the studio is, and yeah, just doing the regular catch wrestling stuff. Uh, just it really works. All right, I couldn't be happier with catch wrestling. All right, so with that being said, some of the main things that Luke Thomas brought up is the lack of pins, right? So that's something important that people should be thinking about, especially if you're training and you want to learn, or if you want to be competing in MMA and also nogi, something that's like very important that will help you to get wins, right? Help you to set up submissions and whatnot. Um, so that's what we have in not only catch wrestling, but of course amateur wrestling has it. But I think catch wrestling has a variety of submissions from a lot of the pins. So yeah, the Luke Thomas podcast was interesting. Yeah, yeah, he's pretty passionate. He's a passionate man. So I'm glad that this one in particular was brought to my attention. Cool. I bought them all. Thank you. All right. So TJ Paiva 3296. I feel like jujitsu is a secondary style, which isn't bad, but I feel like it's most effective for defensive purposes. Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a great perspective. Um, of like how Robert Drysdale was talking about, like it definitely has evolved, and a long time ago they really wanted to try to separate themselves more so away from judo than anything else. I know a lot of people talk about like, oh, well, the wrestlers and this and that, like but it turns out like the real thing that they wanted to not necessarily counter, but to get away from was being labeled judo. So they changed a lot of the rules, de-emphasized the takedowns, de-emphasized pins. And like in the 1970s, the rule said about like points for taking the back or mounting really made like the style into like the modern perspective that still is kind of locked in today, still like it baked in, like kind of like the philosophy is still like baked into a lot of modern Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners. Yeah, like I remember too hearing one instructor that I really like. He's like, it's better to like pin yourself than to like give your back, and um, but if you're really good at the mat wrestling, then you can give your back, and there's so many different ways to escape, and so many different techniques and stuff that will allow you to reverse the situation and get on top and set up your submissions and whatnot. So, yeah. Yeah, so I think it's good to say like so thinking about like if you have like a catch wrestling base, then I think ultimately it's still good to be say like sparring with people, like a variety of people. It's like to give you like different kind of different body types, different ways people attack you. So it's good to be like exposing yourself to kind of like new input, because the one thing about like training with the same people all the time, you start to figure them out. Even if they're really good, you start to like get used to the way they move and whatnot. So I think that's why when a school has like open mat or something, it's good to go, or even if you want to travel across the city to take a class, like just train every once in a while to roll with different body types. Stuff like that will help you to improve and get used to people who attack in different ways. All right. So thank everyone for listening and watching. Hopefully this kind of gave you something to think about. You can totally um, take a lot about like or think a lot about like how things are changing, and how like a lot of people who just kind of have the basic understanding of some wrestling can just beat like ADCC champ in MMA. So it's a lot to be thinking about. But ultimately, say like my perspective is like catch wrestling is great. I think it isn't so well known. Where I totally feel like the wrestling that's getting blended into nogi jujitsu is more the amateur stuff, like the amateur folk style and even some of the freestyle stuff. So I still think that like the catch wrestling way of doing mat wrestling is still not so well known, and definitely not mainstream. It's definitely not being baked into modern nogi. So I think that we're still at an advantage with that. So if you want to learn more, feel free. If you want to support us, you can become a member of our channel, or if you want to come train, we're at the university here, UCLA, but we're also at Fight Science MMA, and of course online. So I think I have to go feed my cat, so I better take off before he starts being more aggressive on letting me know that he's hungry. All right, so thank you for listening and watching. Ultimately, our goal is to help you to wrestle better so that together we keep real wrestling alive. See you next time.